Hello everyone, my name is Dan the Wolfman. I'm going to do another video. TFB TV, James Reeves, my little half-brother, and the FBI did not stop the 9 versus 40 versus 45 debate. I did a more animated version a few days ago. It's been very popular. So I'd like to explain things with a lot of visual representations, both in a layman's term and getting to very scientific with data I have that very few people have, including I also have a bunch of FBI data and whatnot. So before we get started, I'm going to tell you a little bit about me, but I just want to show you what a 9mm plus P critical duty looks like versus a 40 HST. Okay, like, well, that's not that much of a difference. I'm going to try to explain things in a way that you guys will understand. Who am I? I am armed security. I went through a firearms academy when I was young. I've been studied in various ways as a young child and teenager, and we'll leave that at that. Then armed security, I'm on file with the state, 100% with 5 different pistols. I'm also on file officially with a government test, 100% on file, the only one to score perfect in a qualification. Only one in my group to score perfect on a government qualification. Okay, so I've also been a guest through SWAT school, and I'm a high Q nerdy, got a good touch of the TISM, Aspergery, high Q, 99.5% percentile plus, nerd, autistic sort of guy. Okay, so there we go. I'm going to try to explain to you why 40 caliber is the best law enforcement duty round in pistols engineered for 40. Okay. If you are a 9mm fanboy, if you as a civilian carry a 9mm, I have no problem with that as long as it's either HST or punch if you don't want to spend the money. Okay? As long as it's HST or punch, I'm absolutely fine with that. Now, in the heavy wintertime, you should probably train in that 3-inch barrel for at least a 3.6 to 4-inch. You're much better with a 4-inch barrel through many layers of heavy winter clothing than you are with a small barrel. But you can get away with small barrels if it's HST or punch, but longer barrel and winter carry is a good idea. I do 40 winter carry because that's a good idea when we're not talking 4-layer, we're talking 8, 9, 10 layers of heavy clothing. 40 won't shrink. It's a very energetic and efficient cartridge, even from short barrels, and still in a pistol made for it, and a 3.6-inch barrel, still very controllable. I have a video kind of proving it with 5 pistols. Only one a full size, which for law enforcement, boy, a full size engineered for it, like this P99, is awfully great. And as well as 2 subcompacts and a lightweight backup snub. So I can back up what I'm talking about. To make things very simple here, very, very simple here, let's go with before expanded diameter. Let's use this as our 9mm. Let's use this as our 40. And let's use this, little over-exaggerated, but it's what I had on hand, as our 45. Okay? 9mm, 40, a little exaggerated, 45. You're like, well, it's not that different. It's through the entire wound path. The easiest way for mere mortals to think of this probably is, pretend these are all sharp. Would you rather get stabbed with the itty-bitty clothespin? Okay? Could kill you, but we're talking about stopping deadly actions as quickly as possible for law enforcement safety and civilian safety in the surrounding area. Should be good too. We'd rather solve this in 3 to 12 rounds fired than 77 rounds. That would be good, but clothespin and maybe like a medium knife and like a big knife. So what I'm going to tell you here is, this bigger thing, if I stab you 3 times, is equivalent to 4 or 5 times with this. Mathematically, If I stabbed you 3 times with this, it'd be 4 or 5 times with this equivalency amount of tissue crush or total wound volume or wound mass. The bigger it is, the more likely it is to hit a vital structure, and the quicker you're going to bleed, which means your diastolic pressure, your BP is dropping, and as soon as BP starts dropping, you're less good at killing whoever you're trying to kill. You get woozy, and we see this in many law enforcement shootings. They bend over, or they fall down, and then they reanimate. So, this is what a 9mm HST looks like. This is what a 40 HST looks like. Can you see the difference? But what really matters is what they do after they expand. This does 1.65, going by official data from federal. This does 1.65 times more damage than this excellent carry round, the best there is for civilians, and probably law enforcement too, depending on how many vehicle stops you're doing. 124 plus PHST. 1.65 times. By the way, for my 45 guys out there, as long as it's from a long enough barrel that is still going to expand through multiple layers of clothing, we have velocity issues. HST does 2.12 times more, over double the damage than this. Critically important. So if I'm putting 3 to 6 shots in the upper thoracic cavity, I am way more likely to nick a vital structure, the aorta, the spine, things that actually shut down bad guys with the larger diameter bullet, even if it doesn't look that big to the eyeball, or the untrained ballistics ER doctor goes at one spot in the wound of a very tiny pencil wound between a pinky and a middle finger and a thumb. He can't tell the difference. Well, the difference, excuse me, I'm not flicking you off. The difference here between that middle finger and that pinky, look at that, but it's through the entire wound path. So the best way is, what would you rather get stabbed with? Obviously, the bigger the knife, the wider, the thicker the blade I stab you with, is more likely in 3 to 5 stabs to hit something vital and cause way faster blood loss than that little bobby pin or ice pick. I'm not saying the ice pick through the heart or the eyeball can't kill. Given equal shot placement, which is what we are talking in actual terminal ballistics discussion, which you're talking if you're talking at least compact or full-size pistols that were actually engineered for 40 caliber. Gaston Glock, who stole a 40 caliber round and came out with a 40 caliber pistol before Smith & Wesson and their own cartridge, because he literally stole a round, barrel swapped Glocks. Glocks were not engineered for 40 caliber until Gen 5. That's why in J.J. Reeves' little half-brother, love you, bro, but that's why he's in that he's talking about secretaries, and in that he's talking, well, they could shoot G22s good, but they struggled a bit with G23s. That would not be the case with a Gen 5 or the Gen 6 they're prototyping Glock, or an M&P that was engineered for it, or any HK that's been engineered for 40, since the USP engineered for 40, or the M&P pistol that was engineered for 40. It is not a problem. It's a problem with weak shooters that in pistols not engineered for it, that were too light of slides, not good recoil impulse, etc. My first pistol was a Gen 2 Glock 23. The original Glock 23 was my very first pistol I legally bought and registered, which is illegal, at 18 years old. Okay? I could shoot it well as a teenager. But as long as it was like a Gen 5, Gen 6, I hope Glock makes the Gen 6, G22, G23, even G23 Gen 5s would not have been an issue with the FBI. There's an agent dropping all the politics involved and the money involved with, remedial training, and then they stop that, And if someone, you already put them, you selected them, you put them through all this, how much it costs the Gov, the FBI, to then lose a candidate. Okay? That's what it's about. Okay? That's what it's about. 40 is way better, and this is not debatable. 40 is way better if you're shooting into or around vehicles. I don't know, when has the FBI ever done that? Miami did. Law enforcement is far more likely to have to shoot into vehicles or out of vehicles than typical civilians, unless maybe you're a cab driver, tow truck driver, long haul driver, something like that. Mass, physics, retain momentum, going through stuff matters. Now, can the 9mm do really good when it's only a windshield test? If it's like a gold dot, a hard bullet, a critical duty, a contract 147 G2. Yeah. Okay. It can still maybe be specifically engineered, like critical duty was, and FBI then changed their rating systems to get the 9mm to justify the switch. Literally, they changed the criteria to give its full point value in the 14 to 16 inch range instead of just the 12 to 18. They specifically changed the criteria for what Hornady claims, even though I question it. They claim 15 inches with the 135 plus P and .53 expansion through heavy clothing. It did not get that in my testing. And all my other bullets tested in multiple calibers have correlated to the official organic gel data I get from Vista. Now it's bought out. That site's gone. I have all the data right here. All the data right here, okay, that you can no longer find, etc. So, bigger bullets do more damage. Heavier bullets have retained momentum shooting into a car. If it happens to go through the metal, the gears of the back at an angle, and then have to go through the car seat, and then through a 250 plus maybe pound big dude like me, or a fatter obese American, still has to go deep. And we would like that nugget to not be itty bitty, because itty bitty nuggets, similar-ish to 9mm FMJ, don't do a lot. It's like poking you with this. So unless I get that heart into the brain, into the spine, upper spine, it doesn't matter. The amount of blood loss outside CNS is what stops. So all these people are contradicting what they said in the past. Dr. Martin Fackler, Yuri Patrick, who said as long as it starts with a 4, ballistics experts. So 40 is way better for law enforcement because you are way more likely to shoot into and out of vehicles. Not debatable. Even Dr. Gary Roberts, who kind of hopped on the 9mm bandwagon, and some other people on forums that as they aged and they weren't workout guys, they have poor hand strength and hand pain and things that come with aging, and even worse recoil control, especially because they weren't workout dudes when they were younger. And they hop on the 9mm bandwagon and completely contradict common logic. If I stab you with Conan's broadsword versus needle from, I don't know, that dragon show, the broadsword is more likely to hit critical structures. Now, if the needle point hits the exact structure, okay. That doesn't happen very often. Okay? Only the upper spine, T-box. Okay? So in pistol, law enforcement shootings, 40 is better. Civilian, if you want to carry 9mm, let's make it real simple. Carry a 124 HST, a 124 plus P HST, or punch if you don't want to spend the money. Again, in wintertime, you're much wiser to choose a longer barrel. What about 147? 147 HSTs are very, very good. Studied from at least a 3.42 inch G26. Fine. You're going in unknown territory when you shorten that barrel, you add more layers of clothing, or you add distance. Heavy for grain. Bullets do not do as well from short barrels at distance or through multiple layers of heavy winter clothing. They will fall below their velocity expansion window. Now, HSTs are the best of the 147s, but then I question you, are you training with 147? Because it is definitely a different recoil impulse. Or are you going to train with the cheaper 115, 125? For you civilians out there, stop training with PUD, really slow American 115. I train with like Winchester 115 plus P plus rounds at 1300 feet per second, or Hot Euro PPU 124 grain, when you could still get it, and I ran out. 124 grain, a medium, a warmish 124 grain, or an SMB 124 grain, or if you're going to go 115, an SMB 115, because it's the hottest other than the Spear Lawman, pretty much. So it's the hottest you can somewhat afford. Train with the same recoil impulse with what your carry ammo is going to be. 40 is way better in winter, and it's way better for law enforcement. Terminal ballistics are way better because, yes, it matters. Mathematically, let me say this again. 3 180 grain HSTs that the head ballistician at Federal Spear CCI, and now Vista got bought out, Chris Locke, who I talk to kind of regularly, has told me 180 grain HST always performs excellently in OIS, officer-involved shootings. Federal Spear, probably Hornady, and at one point Winchester, but probably not anymore, they would get results from different law enforcement departments and the FBI, and they would talk and then make little changes in the skivs and velocity range and things like that. Like when FBI had to put out a memo and said, not for use in your G26, G46, G43, G43X. They had to pull a memo, immediately stop using this heavy for grain weight ammo. I do believe the solution was to get the supplier contract ammo at 30 feet per second higher, 30 to 35 feet per second higher, going, okay, now it's still hopefully going to stay in its velocity expansion window. Okay, and 135 plus P Hornady or 147 contract, warmer than average from what I've been told. Excuse me, I blanked out. Gold Dot G2, 147 G2, warmer contract, better quality control FBI ammo. However, if you're so worried about barrier penetration that you don't worry about expansion and the wound in the real world, they're not as good stoppers, because blood loss is how you stop bad guys if you outside of CNS shots. We see this all the time. It is not rocket science with all the modern footage. And keep this in mind, civilians. We are talking usually G17 47s. We're talking 4.5-inch barrels. Most of the shootings we see, law enforcement shootings, with 9mm. The most common rounds are either 124 plus P Gold Dot. Excellent round, especially if you're dealing with vehicles. Heavy clothing, New York. Excellent round for law enforcement. HST is better for civilians, typically. 124 plus P Gold Dot. Or a 135 plus P critical duty that doesn't expand any more than XTPs. This is not a great round. And 40 is actually really shitty. This is not a great round, and only from 4-inch or longer barrels. Okay? I don't really have the data on the 147 G2 that FBI is using. I'm sure it's probably pretty okay with the barrier penetration they worry so much about. Real world shootings, I don't know. If anyone actually has real data on that, I'm willing to hear it. But again, you take that mall shooting, first 2 shots misses at 42 yards, and then first 2 hits at 40 yards. With the heavier grain bullets, you're less likely to get expansion on long distance shots or through heavy winter clothing, because hollow points are velocity based. Speaking of which, that agent on that board said in 20 years, they had no problem with even the reduced velocity 165 grain Gold Dots. It always performed as what he said. So we have him saying even the reduced velocity at 980 feet per second is what he claims. There was 2 skews. One was 1150. One was 1050, Was the 1050 really giving 980, or was there even a slightly reduced from the 1050? I think the 1050 LE skew load was probably only giving 980, 985 average feet per second. And yet that still performed. To reiterate, the 40 HST does 1.65 times the total wound volume mathematically than even the excellent 124 plus PHST. Meaning 3 in the upper thoracic cavity, 40 HSTs, does the same amount of damage as 5 of the best, biggest, expanding through all. I mean, 147 expands a bit more in certain criteria, but I think I've explained that. 124 plus PHST, and that's way better than the critical duty and probably way more expansion than a 147 G2 in the real world situations or 4-layer heavy clothing organic gel FBI style tests. So it does 1.65 times. 3 40 HSTs equals 5, unless we're hitting one critical structure. But we are talking about a condensed time frame. We want to stop their deadly actions to possibly kill the cop or the civilian right away. We are trying, law enforcement should be trying to protect life. And that goes into politics, and that goes into a lot of things. Because if I can stop a bad guy with 2 to 5 shots instead of 5 to 10 shots, especially once it becomes double digit 10, 11, 12, 16 shots, or they on the bad guy, that makes the news. If it's double digits, that makes the news. Politically, that is very bad. They use that. Any law enforcement shooting, if they shoot a guy, they're going to paint that guy as a good guy if double digits is a headline. Okay. I have been a guest through SWAT school, and a lot of SWAT guys that have shot people with multiple calibers, going back to shooting guys with 45 FMJ, 45, and then 40, and then eventually 9mm, and the 40 and the 45s dropped bad guys. 2 to 3 in decent A-zone-ish upper. I'm not talking a 4x6 absolutely critical, but a decent-ish shots at angles into the upper thoracic cavity. 2 to 3 often not only would drop the bad guy, but keep the bad guy down. Anyone telling you, no, we can't prove it, isn't using common sense. Once you look at blood volume loss and BP shock papers and real footage, we see guys getting hit with 6, 8 rounds of 9mm, finally falling or bending over. They realize they've been shot by the, 4th, 5th, 6th shot. The first 2, they don't even notice. And then they go, or they fall down, and then they reanimate, which means recover from BP shock. And they get up to stab at the officer again to make a running death stab, or they bend over, they're like, oh shit, I'm going to die anyway, and they rededicate mentally, I'm going to die anyway, to the shootout. With a good 40 hollow point or a good 45, and 45 has velocity and ogive issues, 45 guys. Daryl Bolke says the only lightning bolt strikes he's seen, working all kinds of, high-risk warrant stuff, whatever he was doing, a lot of shootings he witnessed, was a 230 grain plus PHST. Now, dealing with vehicles, ogive at angles or skulls, 45 has a bigger angle. In certain instances, 45 can have issues. Or a direct into the shoulder side lateral shot hitting the shoulder bone, too big of expansion can create drag very, very occasionally. The best law enforcement duty load is 40. If you have good recoil control and you're a good shooter, in the heavy wind, it's 28 degrees right now. When it dips below 32, I grab the 40. Because it's a highly energetic cartridge. Even from a short barrel, it's very efficient. And they studied 40 to Glock 42's 3.4-inch barrels. This is a 3.6. Much better from a 4.2-inch, 4.5-inch barrel. Law enforcement should be using M&Ps. Or if you want, Glocks, G6s, because they suck less. Look at my non-fanboys review of that, even though I'm 100% on file, state and government-wise, with G19, G17s, okay? 40 is just the best law enforcement round. And for you, if you're good recoil control, heavy winter, fine. Civilians, if you want to stick with 9mm, I carry it most of the year. I'm thinking about changing, but it's hard on my body because of weight and because I have a disability, okay? Because I have lupus. But duty-wise, 40 is the best overall cartridge. It is not going to fail in any circumstances. Has enough ass to have the gas to get deep, even going through barriers, which is what the law enforcement's FBI is all concerned about. That's why they said 135 plus P, and then they said 147. It says 2020. I think both are approved loads, as far as I know. And they had to put a memo out, stop using in the short barrel G26, G43, G43X for a little while. So JJ Reeves should be honest instead of pushing his over and over and over again agenda. It's funny, we almost see smaller people that aren't excellent shooters but decent shooters, or older people go on the 9mm bandwagon. So the best general purpose duty load for law enforcement, a 40 gold dot, 165 or 180 grain gold dot. You're dealing with vehicle stops. The best for civilian self-defense on a terminal ballistics level is a 230 or 230 plus P HST. If you can shoot it well, rapidly, accurately. A 40, 180 grain HST, or maybe 165, Gun Sam likes that. Okay? And civilian, 124 plus P is the best if you can control it in your little itty-bitty micro pistol. You're better with a macro 3.6, 3.7 inch barrel. You're better in winter, longer barrel, 4 inch, I've discussed. And if law enforcement's going to go, then you need red dots. FBI started putting that through the academy a year and a half ago. That's another subject. And then you let the special teams, the HRT teams, the teams that have work in a combination. So I have long guns next to me and pistols with bad guys next to me, and capacity and grip size is maybe less of an issue, and then 45. But the best overall for everyone, law enforcement, is 40 Smith & Wesson. I hope this was educational. Anyone that says blood volume, blood mass, total wound volume doesn't matter is not understanding basic reality. Okay? Let's talk outside of CNS and heart shots, which the bigger bullet diameter, you must admit, in quite a few circumstances, and probably more than 1 out of 100 than people are saying right now, I'm more likely to nick a vital structure. If I stab you with a big old thing versus a small thing, and I get 5 pumps in you, it's obvious which one's going to make you bleed out faster and which one's more likely to hit a vital structure. And law enforcement really should talk about BP shock and reanimations and what they're seeing with their own eyes if you actually watch law enforcement shootings, and civilian too, for that matter. And keep in mind, your little 3-inch barrel micro with the shitty ammo you grabbed is not one of the better rounds, 124 plus P or 135 plus P critical duty, that we often see in law enforcement shootings from 4.5-inch barrels. 40 is fine in pistols that are engineered for it to handle the recoil. And when I was a teenager, I was shooting a G20 not engineered for it, barrel swapped, lightweight G23, pretty good too. And I'm sure a Gen 5, Gen 6 would be just dandy, and MMPs and any HK ever, VP40s, even this P99 and 40 would be just fine. This was very long, but I would like people to understand handgun terminal ballistics, and all the bandwagon 9mm guys contradicting everything Fackler and Patrick and even themselves, Gary Roberts, said in the past. Admit the vehicle thing, because retained momentum matters through barriers, which is what the FBI is concerned about. But expansion matters. Total wound volume matters. Blood loss matters. Because the tinier ones also, I'm going to finish, I'm sorry, the tinier little ice pick or bobby pin picks, we're standing up. We have gravity. Things can mush and seal. Things seal probably a lot better with a sucking wound if I shoot a rocket through you or a big wide laser beam. I stab you with Conan the Barbarian sword. That wound collapses a little bit, but it's still a gaping, bleeding hole. Versus a tiny little slow. I mean, we've all done pinpricks, right? We've given blood. Like, it's a little itty bitty slow leaker. And so, if you, especially 9mm that only expands to 47 to 50, maybe lying 53 versus a 68 diameter HST or something is a big difference, which is a real big difference. You're going to 40 HSTs. Here's all the data. Let's go with Winchester's newest data, 2016. freeze frame. Freeze frame. And they had bigger expansion earlier. Their data changed over the years. And 1 second. Because the sight is down, and 9mm did change. It expands less, goes deeper when they at 9mm HSTs added the Conallure. So keep that in mind. I do have the modern 147 data and punch data sitting next to me. But here is gold dot, typically 1.3 times more, either 45 or 165 or 180 gold dots, 1.3 times more. HSTs 165 times more, 2.12 before. Critical duty kind of sucks, especially in 40. 9mm 135 plus, meh. From long barrel, 10mm 45, meh. Not so bad. 40 caliber gold dots are the best for law enforcement or HSTs. Kaboom. Please thumbs up, share, subscribe. Get down there in the comments. I hope this answered some questions. I hope this explained it in a simple and a scientific way when I'm really doing the math here. That's the math. That's the ratios. That is literally the math and the physiology. Okay? Thumbs up, share, subscribe. Get down in the comments. This was longer than I planned. And guys, look at me shooting the 40s, 5 different 40s. Kind of proof you can shoot 40. You can shoot 40. Okay? Look at my video. Look at my 10 reasons 40 doesn't suck. So we haven't talked about bear defense in the woods with FMJ going 33 to 34 inches. We haven't talked about buying HSTs and gold dots for $20 for 50 rounds. Still sales just last night. Okay? Or buying great pistols that maybe have night sights and Apex triggers in them for sub $300 and only trade-ins. Okay? So there's 10 reasons 40 is awesome. Look at that video too. And yeah, a smaller little micro macro. I get it. Civilians, HST, I get it. 9mm. Okay, fine. Okay? I'll catch you on the flip side.